Okay, so this match is about July the 4th practice with my brother, and now we were just choosing our Pokemons, and I chose Noctowl first. And after 3 days of practices, I noticed Noctowl was actually not as weak as expected against Vigoroth, because Sky Attack can take like 35 to 40% of Vigoroth energy away. But with the same number of shields, actually Noctowl is in a disadvantage for sure. But this disadvantage is just not as large as expected. So now we both used 1 shield, and actually, even though I died first, his Vigoroth doesn't really have much energy, and after I switched Vigoroth, his Vigoroth simply just died. So basically that was an even match, and I eventually got a bit more advantage because I managed to charge my Body Slam a little bit to give Vespiquen an early punch. So up to now, we both didn't really use a shield for both my Vigoroth and his Vespiquen, and you can see his Vespiquen was close to death, but his Vespiquen still had like 20% energy, I think. And here I shouldn't really have used a break. Probably I was just fearing he would have an X-Scissor, but he blocked it, and yes, he could finish charging and using an X-Scissor before his Vespiquen dies. Here, now, the good thing is he doesn't really have a shield for his Lantern, so I could just use Wild Charge, and his Lantern. But Raichu is too fragile, so he loses energy very quickly. And my brother again won this match. So at that time, I think I should have learned a lesson. I have to have a tanky forage chest, otherwise my fragile Raichu, my Noctowl, which is weak against his Raichu, would be a trouble, and my Noctowl is also fears his Vespiquen's Power Gem. So basically my team is overall weak against my brother's team, and in this match I wanted to try if I replace the fragile Raichu with the tanky forage chest, then how the match would turn out. I used Noctowl first because I wanted to just bet he wouldn't use Vespiquen first, and even though he uses Vespiquen first, I would be able to better count if he would use X-Scissor or actually Power Gem, and there is a kind of mental battle there, and see if I don't use a shield whether he would use a Power Gem. So here, I decided to use Vigoroth to melt his Vigoroth, but there was a glitch there. I just couldn't really charge. Oh, okay, it worked. And I managed to melt his Vigoroth without his Vigoroth using another Body Slam on my Vigoroth. Now after his Vespiquen jumped in, I already saved almost one Body Slam, and then I later saved more Body Slam to try to give it a back-to-back Body Slam to force him to use a shield. And now the number of shield is 2 to 0. At this point, he should have anticipated without using his Accessor, my Vigoroth would die, and he should have saved more Accessor to deal with my Forageous, but he didn't really do that. As I still had 2 shields, so I decided to block a Accessor there. And he doesn't really have a shield, and unfortunately for him, he has a Noctowl, but you can see here, Noctowl is still tanky against Rock Tomb, even though Rock Tomb is effective against the flying type Noctowl. But I managed to charge twice here to kill this Noctowl. So my brother's mistakes are: first, he should have saved a Power Gem. He should saved an Accessor to deal with my Forageous. Second, he probably forecasted my use of Pokemon's run and eventually used a Pokemon that was weak against my he eventually used a Noctowl, which is weak against my Noctowl. Probably my brother thought, okay, I have won you quite a lot of times, and probably you anticipated you used Noctowl wrong and you would not use a Noctowl, but I still used my Noctowl, but the problem is I used my Noctowl first and used Forageous as my last Pokemon, and that match turned my disadvantage over. So in this match, it is Raichu against Vigoroth. So using Raichu to deal with Vigoroth has 2 advantages. First, if your opponent's Vigoroth doesn't really use a shield, then Brick Break can give it a lot of damage, and basically Raichu can use Brick Break twice, and basically you can waste your opponent's shield. Another thing is, even though if your opponent uses 2 shields, then you would have more advantage, because after your Raichu dies, then after you use Vigoroth, then your Vigoroth can quickly melt your opponent's already damaged Vigoroth. So basically using Raichu to face against your opponent's Vigoroth at the beginning would give you an advantage at the beginning of the match. And another thing I want to say is, probably you should consider not changing your Pokemon in this month, because changing a Pokemon would allow your opponent's Vigoroth to almost finish charging a Body Slam, and it would allow your opponent's Noctowl and Vespiquen, some Pokemons like that, to charge some energies. I just noticed most of the Pokemons that are typically used can charge quickly, so switching Pokemon would give you a disadvantage. So if most of the Pokemons typically used in a month charge very slowly, then switching a Pokemon may not be a problem. But in this month, if you switch a Pokemon, then probably you just give your opponent a chance to finish charging his next charge move. So that is actually a disadvantage to you. So try to use Pokemons so that you would not switch a Pokemon. So basically, I never switch a Pokemon unless my opponent switches first, so that my switch doesn't really cost me an advantage, just make an even match.